All right, we're back with probably should be the last segment of this. The next one is a little bit more functional movement. The first section is more just certain movements, breaking them down. Now we're getting into more functional movements with the athletes that what they're going to do every day. So another thing that I see, the reason why we see a lot of injuries in athletes is we've trained these athletes to be one-dimensional. So they're doing the same movement over and over again. These athletes need to be trained in a three-dimensional way, and they need to be rehabbed in a three-dimensional way because they're not just moving in one plane, they're moving in all segments of the plane. So we need to make sure that we're doing that from the rehab aspect so that it transitions into sport. Like I said, I go back to the overhead athlete. If all they're doing is throwing all the time, they're going to injure themselves. So we need to make sure that we're rehabbing them in a three-dimensional way. So, and the only way to see what ways weaknesses and what ways need to be worked on is to try to do these movements and point them out. That way we're kind of aware of what we need to work with. So the first one is a lunge with the arms out. So Max is going to do a lunge. Go ahead. There. And back up. So now do it facing that way. Scoot back because they can't see you. There you go. There. Back up. So the reason why I want them to go down, hesitate a second, and come back up is I want to see if they can actually keep their core tight so when they come back up, because that's where you're going to see it. Anybody can fall down into a lunge, but can you get back up from the lunge is the key. The reason why I want their arms out is I want to see them keep their balance in that position so they're not falling forward and losing their strength. It's really not the fact that if they can get down into a lunge, it's the fact that I'm looking to see if their core is good and strong. If I'm falling forward, when I come back up out of a lunge, there's something going on with my core that I have to address. Again, back to the overhead athlete. If they're throwing a ball and their core is weak, some other things are going to start to happen and break down. We can't let that happen. So it also shows that they're weak or tight. If the athlete gets down there and can't get back up, their quads could be weak on that side, hamstrings should be tight on one side, and again, back to the core. PVC pipe overhead squat. This is the classic overhead squat position. Let's go about right here so they can see it. So I'm going to show you in two ways. He's going to do it from the front. Max has done this since he's about 5 years old, so he should be pretty good at it. But if he had a few deficits, I'll see. So he's going to squat down and come back up. Good. So when he gets down there, go ahead and get down there and stay. The one thing I'm going to look at is one, you guys know, I'm looking to see if the heels are on the floor. Okay. I'm looking to see if his chest is up. Okay. I want to make sure that the bar is overhead and not way back here. Okay. If the bar's back here, he's going to cheat. That's the way he can do that is if he can keep that. Yeah, it's not hard. It's hard to stay down there very long. But when you get ready, I'm going to go back down there. So when he gets down there, chest stays up, head, eyes stay forward, the heels stay on the ground. The toes can slightly point out a little bit to open up the hips, and the bar is evenly over the head. Okay, back up. Okay, now I'm going to show you. I'm going to have him scoot back just a little bit and do it from the side so you guys can see it. Now, do a bad one. So I want to show you what a bad one looks like. You guys have seen them, I'm sure. So I want you to make sure that when you go down, it's going to be hard, but I'll make sure that you go down and you go on your toes instead of your heels. See? So his heels are coming up. You guys can see that from here. I can put my feet in and come back up. So that's going to tell me a couple of things. If that happens, when you're going to see these really bad athletes do this, is you're going to see that they're either one, their heels are their heel cores, their Achilles, their soleus is tight. Two, their hamstrings are tight. Three, their core's awful. So we have to work on all that. That's why the overhead squat tells us all that. When we do it from overhead, the stability of the shoulders also tells us that they can't keep the overhead and they got to go back this way. They're cheating for some reason. Their body's compensating for a lack of mobility somewhere else or stability somewhere else. So it's our job to find that out. So when they're doing overhead squat, look and see if their chest is pretty much up. It's going to fall forward a little bit. Look and see if their heels are on the ground, and make sure that their eyes are gazed forward, and then we can just go from there. The next part of that with the overhead squat is you want to make sure that they're not valgusing forward. So when they get into this overhead squat and they're coming down in this position, there's going to be some hip problems, obviously. That's what you're going to look at. And you can do that even with just a regular squat. You don't need the overhead squat if they're that bad. So if they can't do the overhead squat, go to the regular squat. The next one is a very important one. We're going to scoot back a little bit so you can see it. I'm gonna take this, Max, you're gonna get in a lunge position facing one way or the other. Let's go that foot out. I'm gonna get on the other side of you so you can see. Good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this PVC pipe and we're gonna keep it straight vertical, and I'm gonna use the palm of my hand and face straight down, and it's gonna be in front of his foot, okay? And he's gonna lean forward with his knee and get as far as he can without his heel coming off the ground, okay? So we test that bilaterally. Okay, back up. I do maybe 2 or 3 because the body gets accommodated and they learn how to cheat. One thing I want to make sure is that this hip is underneath his other hip, and make sure he's lined up perfectly with his leg. So, and then I'll have him lunge forward, obviously, with both of them. I'll stop there, and then we'll finish up with a couple of more.